Hi everyone, here we're going to cover a video on the use of exercises and stretching to prevent wrist, elbow, and forearm injuries. A lot of these same exercises are the ones we use for rehabilitation after injury. Here our focus is on prevention. So we want to cover a few basic concepts first. The first is trying to avoid repetitive activities if possible. By that I mean doing a motion continuously over and over again with no break produces this repetitive strain type of problem. So if possible, pausing even for a few seconds, repositioning, doing some light stretching, and then going back to an activity has a beneficial effect of decreasing that load on the tissue, allowing it to have a time to rest and recover. Even if it's only for a few moments, a few seconds, that's an important concept. Number two is avoiding putting the arm into extremes of positions, wrist all the way bent, wrist cocked into awkward positions, turned and twisted. These are all going to be positions where the muscles and joints are vulnerable to injury. Sort of a neutral resting position is the ideal position for the forearm and wrist to be at. So if possible, repositioning tasks and tools and so forth so that the wrist and arm is not in an extreme end range position is very important. And the final thing we want to cover is that head and neck posture does have an effect on elbow, wrist, and hand injuries. There's been some literature suggesting that addressing the neck, at the very least being cautious of posture. So we're imagining that imaginary line between the ear, shoulder, and hip are all in one straight alignment. As the head comes forward, pressure starts to build on joints and nerves and blood vessels that exit the neck and run into the arm and can contribute to perhaps to elbow, wrist, and hand injuries. So being aware of overall posture, even of the neck and upper back, has a beneficial effect on wrist and hand injuries, particularly repetitive strain injuries, keyboard use, that sort of thing. So those are some basic concepts. We want to cover a little bit of exercises now. These are things that could be done as a prevention program for preventing injuries. There's two sort of general categories. One is stretching and range of motion exercises. The other is muscle strengthening exercises. We want to cover both. Generally speaking, stretching and range of motion exercises probably are more useful with regards to overuse type injuries and dealing with carpal tunnel syndrome and tendinitis than strength training exercises are, but they both have their place. The first stretch we want to cover is a stretch for the muscles on the palmar aspect of the forearm. These are the muscles that run through the carpal tunnel. These muscles originate off the medial part of the elbow, so golfers' elbow, medial elbow pain, these would benefit. Basically what we're trying to do, the elbow is straight, we're reaching up here and trying to increase stretch on the wrist and fingers to bend the wrist upwards. We're holding for about 10 to 15 seconds, making sure the head and neck is in good alignment, trying to relax and breathe and increase the stretch. And just maybe 3 to 5 stretches, holding for 10 to 15 seconds. This is a basic stretch for the finger flexor muscles. The other stretch is to point the fingers down at the floor, reach up with the other hand and increase the stretch. This is used to stretch the muscles in the back of the forearm. These muscles originate off the elbow and contribute to tennis elbow and tendinitis at the wrist. So these would be useful for that purpose. Sometimes even turning the wrist outwards a little bit accentuates the stretch into the forearm. That's fine. Again, holding for 10 to 15 seconds, working 3 to 5 repetitions at a time. A final exercise I want to share with you is one that's been developed for carpal tunnel problems. It's a basic range of motion exercise. It's starting off with the arm out stretch. And basically what you do, step one is to flex up towards the ceiling. You hold for about 5 seconds. Come back to neutral, make a fist, flex down to the floor. Hold for 5 seconds. Back to neutral, up to the ceiling. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Neutral, make a fist, down to the floor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's suggested working about 10 repetitions 2 or 3 times a day can have a beneficial effect with carpal tunnel syndrome. That's a specific exercise for carpal tunnel. So those are all some basic ideas for stretching and range of motion, focusing on the muscles of the forearm, wrist, and hand. I want to cover a little bit of muscle strengthening exercises. These exercises can be done with light weights or with rubber bands. I'll show you both. This first series of techniques we're going to use a rubber band for. And these are available in sporting goods stores and so forth, online certainly. This product is called TheraBand. That's a well-known one, but there's a variety of different products out there. And they come in different degrees of tension. You want to use something that's in the light to medium category to start off with, certainly. I'm going to sit in a chair for this next series. So we want to strengthen the muscles in the back of the forearm. That could be done by holding one end of the band under your foot, placing the arm on a table, or you can even do it on your leg if you like. And basically what you're doing here is trying to extend the wrist and fingers towards the ceiling, coming down slow. This is used to strengthen the forearm muscles on the back of the hand. Again, we're trying to maintain that same speed in both directions, so good control, 10 to 15 repetitions per set, working 2 sets as you go through this at home. Exercise number 2 is palm up. Same idea. Here we're curling up towards the ceiling and then back down. This is strengthening the muscles on the palmar side of the wrist and forearm, the flexor muscles. Again, same idea, working 10 to 15 repetitions per set, 2 sets. And just like so. So that's a couple of very simple exercises for strengthening your forearm muscles. If you would like some variety, or you don't want to use TheraBand, a light weight will suffice as well. This is a 3-pound weight. Again, 3 to 5 pounds is probably sufficient. Working on those same exercises we just did with the rubber band, it's just a little different feeling with the dumbbell. Here I'm doing the palm up exercise for the flexor muscles. Again, 10 to 15 repetitions per set. Here I'm turning palm down and doing the palm down exercise. Slow with control, 10 to 15 repetitions per set. Another simple exercise for the forearm rotator muscles could be done with a stick, a small stick with a light weight attached to the end, one-sided dumbbell or a hammer or something like that. And basically what you're trying to do here is to rotate the one-sided dumbbell through a 180-degree arc of motion. Again, emphasizing that good control, same speed, both directions. 15 repetitions per set, 2 sets. Important mistake with this one is not to open the fingers and spin it through the fingers, but to keep the fingers closed so the forearm rotates. And the final strengthening thing we want to cover is the use of a gripper. Again, if grip strength is an issue, if you've lost grip strength because of an old injury or a problem, a basic spring gripper is a very valuable tool. This is a little bit of a fancier one, but basic spring grippers are available in any sporting goods store or sporting goods department. So that's all an example of some basic strengthening exercises and stretching exercises, and they are used for prevention or treatment of wrist and hand injuries. Thank you for viewing this video.